this is a joint presentation, so I'm going to position our platform. We have a social network analytics, wrong one, it's the wrong presentation. Oh! Could you, the other one? Yeah, we have a social network analytics platform that sits on top of Yammer or Workplace by Facebook or Teams. And Naomi's company, Real Foundations, is a very active user of Yammer and Teams.
Do you want the SUSE one? Is that the one I'm looking for?
One.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
So, who's heard of social network analysis? So, a few of you? All right. So, my hair's grey enough to be able to say I've been in this sort of knowledge management field for over 30 years now, right? So, I do call my base discipline knowledge management, but I look at the world through the filter of social networks. Right? So I've even got the T-shirt. So this is my passion, and I'm going to introduce what we do. I want to ground it in some fundamental principles for knowledge management. So I guess you've all seen this: the explicit, tacit knowledge, the iceberg. Are you familiar with this? So where do you see most of the work happening around here? It's on the top, isn't it? So what do people do with the tacit stuff? So this is the stuff that really excited me. And I'll tell you why. And let me just say, first of all, when I was a knowledge management consultant, I used to present knowledge management like this. We said, well, it's about collections and connections, simply. The collections are sort of like the stuff at the top. And the connections are what happens underneath, and that's how you share your tacit knowledge with each other. So that was the way I explained it. Now, this picture, amazingly, is me over 30 years ago, in fact. And I used to work for a big mining company, the world's largest one, and they had steelworks, actually, and I was building expert systems in those days. That was the first wave of artificial intelligence. And this was an expert in an iron ore sinter plant, and he was retiring in 12 months. And my job was to build a knowledge base that captured his knowledge and put it in a system that could advise less experienced people that had only been working for 20 years instead of 30 or 40 years like himself. So you can see the technology there. I mean, some of you probably weren't even born when that machine came out. Do you recognise that machine? The original Mac? It's actually got a hard drive. We were spoiled with this one. There was more than 400 rules that we had in here. Yet when we took it to the plant and we trialled it, we couldn't get the operators to follow what it was. What it asked. And I had many late shifts working with them and saying, well, it's saying turn the moisture up a bit, why don't we do a bit of that? And they say, yeah, I could do that. And I'm sure if Maury was there, they would have done it straight away. They had real respect for Maury, the expert. But it dawned on me that we were just scraping just the edge of what Maury was worth. Right? Now, this is something we say in knowledge management. We know far more than we can say, and we can say far more than we can write down. And in fact, we'd really captured, I would say, novice type knowledge from him. And in fact, his real value to his workers, he was a general foreman, was that he was a connector. Right? He could connect the shop floor with the management. He knew where things were, and they'd say, Maury knows everything. He even knows where to find the brooms on the back shifts and things like that. So he had real respect. So he was a linchpin, I guess. Now I took that away, and along comes the 1990s. I'm looking a little bit grey now, but by this time, because I know a lot about knowledge, I get the job of being the consulting leader for the knowledge management practice in the 90s, because that was really hot at that time. And it's still, I guess, warm, at least. But I went into the job thinking, oh, I'm going to use this network analysis stuff, because that's really important. That's how we really share. That's how we connect people so they can share tacit knowledge. But the reality was that the money was actually in this stuff, the document management, the records management, the search engines, all this sort of stuff. In fact, we're still seeing that out in the exhibition, aren't we? That seemed to be where the money was. So I wasn't a particularly good consulting leader because I wasn't particularly interested in all of that sort of stuff. I wanted to do this stuff. So I used to do my own projects, and the staff that I was leading, I just let them go off and do their document management, records management, stuff like that. So I guess I was a bit of a fail at that as well. And connections really weren't getting a look in, right? It was all about collections. Nothing much about connections. But things started to turn up when something called Facebook came onto the market. Now, there were predecessors to Facebook, but Facebook didn't care about collections. They only cared about connections. So things started to look up for connections. Now, I might say they knew nothing about social network analysis. In fact, they talked about social networking, right, rather than social network analysis. But in fact, it was a perfect match for what we were doing. So, I mean, I left the big consulting company. I started my own company with my current co-partner, and we just did social network analysis projects. We did over 100, right? So and nearly all of them were survey-based at that time. But then in 2014, we started to see in the change program, who knows about John Cotter? You know, he's like written the book on change, right? In 2014, he came up with the idea that it wasn't so much we needed to move people from the hierarchy to the network or what have you, but we needed to operate both. You know, and for us, this was like, this is exactly what we've been talking about. Now, who knows about Josh Person, Deloitte, right? So Josh has this thing called Engagement 3.0. Now, if you read what it is, it could be a spec for our product. Engagement 1.0 was the annual culture review. Engagement 2.0 was the monthly pulse review interview or pulse survey. And this is the sort of stuff that captures what people are actually doing, not asking them what they think they're doing, but what they're actually doing. And that was really, really important for us. So finally, I'm starting to think, you know, we're starting to get a bit of a win here now. I think having a look at the exhibition here, maybe collections are still pretty strong, but I'm starting to see that, you know, people are talking about things like Workplace, talking about Yammer, talking about Teams, talking about Slack, you know, so we're starting to see a lot of embedding. And what we do as a company, we benchmark organisations based on how they interact. Next week we'll be launching our fourth Yammer report, 98 companies that we've analysed their interactions with over a 6-month period. So, this is the quick demo. So there's no real demo, because on one hand I give time for Naomi to talk about how she's using things. So this is the Swoop Dashboard. And I think the things that I want to point out, obviously we've got the network map. It comes up by default on your personal. So this is your personal sort of networking behaviour. On the left-hand side, you'll see a persona where we actually classify what your interaction behaviour is based on what you do, not just, you know, what you say you do. Right. So now you can also look at the. Oh, I should go back here. We've also got the nudge. Remember the nudge on Enterprise 3.0? So based on how you're interacting, we'll actually give you a little nudge. We won't send you an email because no one wants more email, but if you log on to the Swoop Dashboard, you'll get your personal profile up, and if you're interacting in a particular way, we'll nudge you along into a better pattern of collaboration. Of course, for the administrators and the analysts, they want to look at the whole enterprise level. And I guess with this one, you know, the community sort of index, people want to know how you're collaborating across your formal lines of business. So very interested in that. We do sentiment, so we can, it's not shown on this screenshot, so we can show you what the sentiment of your messaging are, but we don't, I might point out that social network analysis doesn't rely on the content, right? We only rely on the connection. So if anyone broke into our database, all they'd see was metadata, that ID 6 connected with ID 2 17 times last week or something like that. And of course, the latest product we have is for Microsoft Teams. And the big change here is that we've got a team persona. Now what we find with digital teams is that they grow too fast, right? So we've looked at nearly 1,000 teams now, and the average size team is about 27 or 28. So what do you think the most optimal size team should be? What do you think the research would tell you? 15? No, less. No, that's 150. You've got to run. It's the wrong expert. So it's sort of like the research tells us 4 to 6. If you get past 10, it's productivity drops, right? So Jeff Bezos, the Amazon CEO, said, if you can't feed the team with 2 pizzas, you've got too many people in the team. All right, so that's the rule of thumb. So what we find is that nearly 30 people in the team, but on average about 10 active. Right? So that means you've got 15 people in what we call the gallery. So on this left-hand side, we've got things like what the core team is, what your reciprocity is and so forth, but the size of the gallery and the team. And some of these teams aren't really teams, are they? They're probably forums or communities or what have you. Anyway, I want to give time to Naomi to speak about what she does, because she does some really exciting stuff. Real Foundations has been a leader in our benchmarking for quite a while, and what she's doing with teams and Yammer is really quite tremendous. So would you be able to get her?
Thank you. You're welcome.
No, it was there.
Oh,
Not this one.
not this one?
No, that was his. It was, there it is.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Sorry. Oop. Lost.
And then I just do.
Yeah.
Here, perfect. Oh, thank you. Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Naomi Souza, and I work for a pretty small professional services firm called Real Foundations. We're about 400 people. I'm going to tell you about our company in a minute, but by way of introduction at Real Foundations, I don't know.
Okay. Come on. Do we have an AV person in the house?
Just put it up the way it was, and it doesn't have to be in presentation mode. Could you take it out of that, and we'll just do it kind of.
Well, it doesn't make any difference.
There
Hold
it is. There it is. Just leave it there.
on. Oh, all right.
Thanks. Thanks. There we go. Okay, all right, so thanks for bearing with us. So at Real Foundations, I'm responsible primarily for how we present ourselves to the market, so business development, marketing, online presence, et cetera. But I'm also responsible for knowledge curation across the firm and collaboration. And for us, we have a very robust collaboration ecosystem. It is powered by Microsoft, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But collaboration is really core to our culture, and it's something that I'm pretty passionate about. So thanks for letting me talk to you, and thanks for sticking around to 4:45. So I'm going to just quickly talk about Real Foundations to give you just a reference point, but I'm really going to spend most of my time talking about our enterprise collaboration journey, focus primarily on how we use Yammer and how we use Teams, and then I'll try to distill up some of the kind of lessons learned and tips and tricks. Okay, so Real Foundations, we are a professional services firm. We're wholly focused on real estate. Our mission is to make real estate run better. And we do that through either the delivery of projects, so traditional management consulting projects. We also deliver services, so we are a business process outsourcer in real estate. We do technology support, lease administration, abstraction, et cetera. We're a 20-year-old company, and we've got offices in 9 cities across the globe, so 400 people spread out pretty far. We also have a bunch of remote workers. But this is kind of RF on a page, and you can see up there in engagement, whenever we talk about ourselves, we talk about how we work and the collaborative way that we work. And this has really been a differentiator for us in the market, sort of how we sell ourselves in our space. So when you hire Real Foundations, you're not just getting the smart, capable people on your team, but you're able to access the collective knowledge of the firm. And then also, it's really helping us know what we know as an enterprise, which has a bunch of benefits in and of itself. So I want to talk about our collaboration ecosystem. There's a lot going on in this visual, but what I want to call out is that we really look at our collaboration ecosystem in terms of tools and places. So we're fully Microsoft 365. We're Microsoft 365 Online. We're early adopters of everything. We're early release for all the tools and places. But we look at tools, so the traditional PowerPoint, Excel, those are things that you can pick up and use in any of the collaboration places. So similar to today, many people work in the office a couple days a week. Maybe you work from your home office. Maybe you work from a coffee house half the day. The idea is that to do work, you can be anywhere, and we want people spending time in the digital workplaces like Yammer and Teams every day. Two things that I'm going to spend time talking about Teams. I'm going to spend time talking about Yammer. I'm new to knowledge management, and this is my first KM world. I'm sort of struck by the amount of time or the amount of focus that's been given to search in the other sessions that I've attended the last 2 days. We use Bing for Business for search, and that's new in the Microsoft ecosystem, but it's a really powerful tool, and it allows us to search across our entire ecosystem. And that is not just documents, but also videos, conversations, and those are documents whether they're on SharePoint, on your OneDrive, within Teams, et cetera. So if you use Microsoft 365, I would encourage you to look at Bing for search. Did anybody attend the Office 365 Kool-Aid session? I thought that was a really good overview. If you're interested in Office 365 and the different tools and places, there was a Track B session about drinking the Kool-Aid of Office 365, but I think he made a really good point about why Microsoft, and for us it was really about one ecosystem and being able to search across everything, as well as the security and compliance that's just built into Microsoft. Okay, so let me just tell you quickly about our Yammer journey. So I'm not going to talk about the functionality of Yammer. You can go read and learn about that on your own. But we really look at Yammer as our virtual water cooler. And we've been using Yammer since about 2010, and that was before it was owned by Microsoft. True story, the founder of our company, his mother is a retired school teacher, and she's always reading about what other people are doing, and she called him up and she said, hey, there's this thing called Yammer, you might think about it for your company. So that was 9 years ago, and we've been using it since. It started out as a couple of project teams just using it to deliver work, and it grew and grew and grew. And in 2014, our CEO, this was essentially our formal rollout, he did 10 days of Yammer post, one post every day, and he posted these things called Y tips. And that was his signal to everybody that we were going to start using Yammer as our virtual water cooler. So some of those posts were things like reading something every day, right, making it a habit to get into Yammer, following people, joining groups, liking things, seek and you shall find, so doing a quick search before you make a post, see if there's already conversation out there, better questions or the answer, right, giving context to the things that you're looking for. So those were some really great tips, and they've endured, and those are things that we still teach people when they join the firm. Another thing that we do in Yammer that I think people find interesting is we go to about 50 industry events a year. Sometimes those are business development focused events, sometimes they're learning events. This is one of those events for our firm. And so every time we go to an industry event, we set up a Yammer group, and sort of the price of admission for the person sent to the event is you have to live blog and share what you're learning, and who you're meeting with and what connections you've made. So I've been live blogging the sessions that I've been to, and that allows everybody who's not physically here to learn as well. So we have been recognized for the last 2 years as one of the most collaborative users of Yammer for companies of our size. So Laurence mentioned the benchmarking that they do. I think in terms of what's gone well, we have some really active Yammer groups where people are daily sharing knowledge and solving problems, especially for our clients. All in all, we've got about 500 Yammer groups, which is way too many Yammer groups, but about 300 of those are point-in-time industry event knowledge capture. That leaves about 200, and of those, about 50 are around topics of enduring knowledge. So those are things about things that will matter to us in 5 years. The other thing, too, that Yammers allowed some people to do is really establish themselves as SMEs. So we use Yammer to ask questions to help solve problems for clients. What we found, especially in the younger generation, is that people start to really like to be helpful and answer questions, and then other people know that that person is an expert in the particular field. And I think when I was thinking about where we struggled, not everybody engages in Yammer. We have more work to do. I think we've got a lot of engagement at the top, not the top of our company, but of those who engage, we've got a lot of engagement. We've got a lot of work to do at the end there. And then anytime I think you introduce a new tool, right, you get that another thing. And I'll talk in a minute about how we've addressed that. So in 2017, our CEO said, okay, we're doing a good job with Yammer, now we're gonna start using Teams. And everybody really said, oh my God, another tool. So we developed this graphic, and we sort of plastered it everywhere and had conversations about it with people. Trying to tell people that we're not asking you to do another thing, we're just asking you to move certain conversations and work that you are doing in one place to another. And that's not unlike what we're doing in our personal lives, right? Like in a given day, you're looking at Twitter, you're going to Facebook, whatever the new social thing is. You're doing those things and not even thinking about it. We're really just trying to bring that into the workplace. And so this was our attempt to say, you used to send emails to people that have enterprise value or knowledge. Instead of putting that in email, now please put it in Yammer or put it in Teams. We've moved all of our project work into Teams, and that's been really successful. All of our departments have Teams as well. And I think what we're starting to see, so this is now almost 2 years, I think people are starting to see the benefits. The day-to-day practitioners are saying, I'm not having to have the meetings because we're working out our problems within the conversations within the teams themselves. So people are really starting to see the what's in it for me bit, and so that's positive. I think we've got a lot of work to do. Change is hard. People still want to, there are a lot of people who still want to email. So for us, the big struggle is how do we get the right types of knowledge share and conversations out of email and into Teams. If you haven't seen Teams before, this is just an example of what the Teams interface looks like. This is actually my team of people within Real Foundations. And I wanted to talk about it just because I've got 5 people in Chennai, India, and then 5 people here in the States. And we do a little thing. We started this 2 years ago, but every single morning, everybody on the team sits down and says, it's hashtag WIDT, what I'm doing today. And it's literally just a bullet point list of all the things that you're going to work on today. But what that allows, well, it does a couple of things. I mean, obviously, it makes everybody think about how they're going to spend their day. But when I start my day, I go into Teams and I can see what the 5 people on my team in India who started 5 hours ago are doing. And if something's missing or if they're working on something that I think is not that valuable, I can reach out and say, hey. But I bring this up also because if it's intimidating in the beginning, sort of like what am I supposed to do in Teams, this is a super easy way to get everybody into Teams. You need to do that anyway. You need to make a to-do list or however you manage your work. It's a good, easy, sort of non-threatening way to get into Teams and start making that a routine. The last thing I wanted to talk about is how we use Swoop to measure engagement. So we've been a customer now of Swoop for over 2 years. And at Roll Foundations, we have a we still do biannual performance reviews. And we do them for everybody at our company, and there are 400 of us. But what we do, we've explicitly said that working out loud is what we're going to do, and we expect people to capture their knowledge in Yammer and work in teams. And so we're now benchmarking that. So through Swoop, which has a Yammer analytics tool and a Teams analytics tool, we benchmark everybody in the company by total activity, and we rank everybody. It brings out the competitiveness in people, but it also really allows us to say, at your level, with your years of experience, we're really expecting more knowledge sharing. Swoop also has personas, and these are based on your activity within Yammer and Teams. So this is an oversimplification, but if I'm going into Yammer and Teams and I'm not ever posting anything or replying, if I'm not sharing any knowledge, I'm classified as an observer. And being an observer is fine if you're brand new, right? Because maybe you're just trying to get your feet on the ground and see what's going on and understand how things work. Certainly, if you've been at our company for 5 years, if you're a senior leader in the firm, being an observer is not okay. So it's a great way to sort of measure and change engagement. Just trying to kind of distill what we've learned on our journey. I think, and I didn't hear any of this on the first day of the conference, but I heard it several times today. I think in order to be a really collaborative enterprise, you have to believe that knowledge just doesn't exist in documents anymore. There's so much knowledge shared in conversations, now in videos. So you have to think about knowledge as much more than documents. And I mentioned this earlier, but I think changes in how we're communicating outside of work can really be brought inside work to be more impactful. And then I think too, the realization that what you know as a company is so much bigger than what anybody sort of knows in their head. So really being focused on getting knowledge out of people's heads and into a place where other people can access it is critical. And then specific to the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, just the notion that Teams is really the hub for all work out loud activity, collaboration activity. And then I documented some tips and tricks. I think a lot of this is traditional change management stuff, but I would call out, I think the really important things are positioning working out loud and collaboration is just a part of how we work. It's not another thing. And then also being able to articulate the what's in it for me, both at an individual level and at an enterprise level, really gets people to buy in. And then I really like the what I'm doing today. I think it's a great little way to again, sort of low risk, low stress, get people used to going into Teams every day. So that's all I have prepared. Thank you.